what have we got going on with autism? We have neurological things, right? We have brain inflammation. We have toxins in the brain. We have maybe infections in the brain creating that inflammation. What do we want to do? Get rid of that.
Yeah.
So in order to drain the brain, we have to have the whole rest of the body, right, from the neck all the way down open. So our first step is we got to get kids pooping all the time. So many are constipated,
Yes.
right? So we have to get elimination working.
Mhm.
After we get elimination working, this is called the drainage funnel, right? We have like a funnel, right? Down here's the colon, the rectum, and that's where we're pooping out every day. But if that's blocked, guess what? Everything up the funnel is blocked. And
Yes.
so what's at the top of the funnel? The brain. So we're not draining the brain.
Hey there. Before I introduce today's guest, I'd like to tell you about a new group coaching program that I'm offering. Embrace Beauty After Grief. This program is designed for autism moms who need a safe space to work through their struggles and some of the daily challenges that we all face as an autism mom. You'll feel lighter and you'll gain some great insights along our 6 weeks journey together. So if this sounds like something you'd like to do, go ahead and go to mothersguidethroughautism.com and sign up. Welcome back to Mother's Guide Through Autism podcast. I'm Bridget Shipman, and I am your host. Today, I'm going to be speaking with Luminara Serdar, and I am so happy she's with us today. Luminara is an autism transformation expert, helping parents discover and address the root causes of their child's challenging autism behaviors so that a child can be calm, happy, develop to peer level, and gain independence. And so parents can feel competent, empowered, and happy. She's trained as a scientist in genetics, cell biology, and biochemistry as a functional nutritionist and holistic healer. She works with clients throughout the world using nutrition, opening body systems, and removing toxic buildup to help shift autism behaviors. I am so excited. I've already got to visit with this lovely lady who is going to give us so much knowledge, hope, and inspiration. Luminara. She taught me how to say her name correctly. I am very transparent. I think that is a very unique, beautiful name. So I want to make sure that I get it right. So welcome to our show. And if I pronounce it wrong in any way, you just correct me.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me here.
Yeah. So we had a chance to visit a little bit before we hit the record button. And I just think that you're lovely and the work that you're doing is exactly what our listeners are interested in. So I cover so many different topics, but I love your intention behind all of it. So let's start out with your background and how you came to be an autism transformation specialist.
Yeah, I started out as a scientist. I was a molecular biologist. I did cloning, DNA cloning in the lab, gene cloning, all that stuff that, now is taken in a different direction in our society. So I was a scientist by training, and then I became interested in energy work, actually. I had allergies, and I had pistachios one evening after dinner, and I felt weird in my body. I didn't know what was going on. And someone said, go to the emergency room. I think you're having an allergic reaction and your throat can close. And so I went, they shot me with adrenaline. And then I had an EpiPen after that, right? Because I had this near anaphylactic reaction. I didn't want to test it again, So I went with this until someone told me, you could get rid of those allergies. And I was like, what? I went to someone who did allergy elimination and got rid of the pistachio allergy. I was also slightly allergic to mango and coconut, got rid of those allergies, got rid of most of my seasonal allergies. And the funny thing that happened is that my vision spontaneously improved while going through that process. And it's a process called neuromodulation technique. So neuro meaning nervous system, modulation to change. So it just changes the way the body interprets that signal. It doesn't interpret it as an allergen anymore. It interprets it as a chemical that can feed the body, right? Food, nutrition. So in that process, since my vision changed, I was like, can we, I had glasses since I was 14 or 12 or something. And I was like, can we like work on my vision improvement? So I went back and we did that. And, I got my lens prescription down by 33%. I know it was crazy with energy
That's
work.
a
I was doing some eye exercises as well, just training my eyes. So I got really interested in neuromodulation techniques. So I went from scientist skeptical to, being muscle tested and having this energy work and being super fascinated by it. It turns out, it uses principles of quantum physics. So I became an energy healer. And I wanted to eliminate allergies. And so I started getting clients who were on the autism spectrum to eliminate their allergies, but then what I call them the beneficial side effects, like my vision improvement, other things would happen, right? Because the body was correcting the dysfunction internally. So one boy, I think he was around 9 years old. This was a long time ago. I worked on his allergies, and then his chiropractic corrections would hold. He wouldn't have to go to the chiropractor as often. His spine was being more straight. I know, it's crazy. So
I love it.
I was super fascinated by that. And I helped a lot of kids with NMT, neuromodulation. And then it wasn't quite getting all the way. And then I learned about biomedical interventions, which you've probably, you've talked to Dr. Anjou and, fixing the gut and fixing the biochemistry of the body. And the biomedical approach is to give, supplements, nutrients that the body's missing and to help kill infections that are chronic in the body. And so I did that for a while with the neuromodulation. And then I realized, that's not quite going all the way either. So
Mhm.
my process was iterative. And so what I finally figured out, I listened to a parasite summit and I realized, oh, what's really happening here is that we need to clean the body out first before the nutrients can even get in. So there's blocks to those nutrients getting in. I mean, all the practitioners who are doing the biomedical approach, they have the right intentions and the right methods. It's just that, imagine if you've got a house just full of stuff, a hoarder's house, and you can barely walk and you're trying to fit a new couch in the door. There's no place to put it, right? It won't come in. So that's what these nutrients were. That's how the nutrients were behaving in the body. They weren't getting in. We have to get the junk out first. So I know one of the things that you wanted me to talk about is what I think are some of the root causes of autism.
I do, yes.
And that leads right into it, which is,
Yeah.
I think that our kids are so loaded up, like that hoarder's house. They're so loaded up with toxins in their connective tissues, in their organs, in the fatty organs, right? The toxins go in fat. And we call that the total load. So they have such a big total load. And unfortunately, they have the predisposition. I don't know if it's genetic or if it's toxins that do this. They can't detoxify well. They're not good excretors. They don't excrete the toxins from within the cells. Maybe they excrete, they poop and they pee, but
Mhm.
they don't excrete from the deep levels. And then that messes up our biochemistry.
Yeah, that is so fascinating to me because, really, the whole time you're talking, I'm thinking about my son, who I really think, of course, now he's 31 years old. So just as a question that just came up for me, is it ever too late to have this work
No.
done? Okay.
No, it's not too late, but it takes longer. So I think as our brain develops, and you've probably seen this, we
Mhm.
develop these neural networks, these neural pathways, right? And it becomes like a habit, like a wagon wheel rut. Like there's a rut in the dirt where everything kind of goes and works there. So what we have to do is kind of mess with that rut. We have to mess with those neural networks and form new ones, which the brain is capable of doing. But when we've been in the habit of doing something a long time, I think to break a habit, it takes something like 38 times of doing it a different way.
Mhm.
So it just might take longer, but we can still pull those toxins out and then help the brain to, just when you do push-ups, you're strengthening your arms and you can do more push-ups. When you're crossing the midline, you're helping build the brain. So there are things you can do to build the brain.
Oh, yes. Yeah. I love that. Because a lot of parents may be thinking, oh, my child's already this age, or like me, I mean, 31, but even teenagers, or because a lot of times we're thinking of, kids, like the newness of a diagnosis, we're fired up, we're ready to do whatever. So I absolutely think it applies there, but it's good to know that it's never too late.
Well, here's what I've noticed in my work with different clients. Some clients have the genetics or predisposition or whatever it is, that maybe it's mold damage. People who have been mold damaged kind of never really come back, it seems like, is from what I've known from different people. They're always going to be sensitive. They're always going to be have to be careful with what they eat, right? And not disturb the system because it's such a more sensitive system. And then there's some people who you change the diet, you fix the gut, and they you just see them more and more coming out as to who they are. And then once these systems are working well, it's a hardy system. So some people are more sensitive, some
Yeah.
people are more hardy. So I never know who's going to be what, but I can tell by working with them
Mhm.
who's responding better, who's holding it better. And then there are some people who I've seen really fast corrections happen. And a correction is, I'm talking about neuromodulation. When I give the intention of the correction, it's literally a therapeutic intention, is literally my thought to your body, but it's very specific. Do this,
Mhm.
do this, do this, do this in this order.
Mhm.
So some people shift really fast. And then some people are like the slow plodding, the tortoise and the hare. Some people are the tortoise and they just go really, really slow. I saw that with one boy I worked with. He was 13 and he was an eloper. He would run. They could never leave him on his own. He would run away. He would destroy whatever it was. If they took him in a store, he would just knock over the displays. He was just all over the place. And he just slowly, he wouldn't run. He could, he would listen to what his mom was saying. His sense of humor started coming out. He was a really funny kid. He loved to play jokes on people, and maybe he was doing that all along, but it was misunderstood. But then his humor just came out. And at one point, his mom said, well, we had to go in this store and he didn't want to go in. And he expressed his displeasure at going in. He was able to express that in a way that he didn't destroy things or get upset or cry or have a tantrum.
Right.
And he ended up going in the store anyway. And he sat there while the rest of the family had to do business. And he sat there for 20 minutes and he didn't destroy anything. And so was he talking? No, he still wasn't talking a lot. But you know what? That's progress of someone who a parent is so afraid that he's going to run out in traffic, right? Or run away, or they're going to lose him. And
Mhm.
he's just going to go.
Mhm.
And from that to this peace of mind of, oh, I know he can be with us and go to family events and not freak out. And, that's a huge shift.
I think it's huge, because just the level of stress that you would have as a parent.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's ginormous, actually. So yeah, this is so interesting. Um, I'm curious, would you give us an idea of what you do as an autism transformation specialist to help parents with children? You've given us so many lovely stories, but what could a parent expect? What do you actually do?
Yeah. If someone comes to me and I'm working one-on-one with them, I'm doing the neuromodulation. So we're working from the inside out, retraining the body how to do things better. That's one thing. And the other thing I do is I put them on a protocol. So it's supplements, but it's not it's different than the biomedical approach. So the biomedical approach is you're nutrient deficient. Let's get these nutrients into you, which, as I said, I see that doesn't work so well. Maybe
Mhm.
20% of the nutrient gets in, and the rest you have expensive urine. um, so what I've learned is that, what have we got going on with autism? We have neurological things, right? We have brain inflammation. We have toxins in the brain. We have maybe infections in the brain creating that inflammation. What do we want to do? Get rid of that.
Yeah.
So in order to drain the brain, we have to have the whole rest of the body, right, from the neck all the way down open. So our first step is we got to get kids pooping all the time. So many are constipated,
Yes.
right? So we have to get elimination working.
Mhm.
After we get elimination working, this is called the drainage funnel, right? We have like a funnel, right? Down here's the colon, the rectum, and that's where we're pooping out every day. But if that's blocked, guess what? Everything up the funnel is blocked. And
Yes.
so what's at the top of the funnel? The brain. So we're not draining the brain, right?
Mhm.
And so we have to not just get the colon and the elimination working, but we have to be pulling the toxins out consistently. And we use binders to do that. Binders, like maybe people understand activated charcoal. It's what,
Mhm.
if you swallow poison and go to the hospital, they give you activated charcoal to absorb it all, right?
Mhm.
So it doesn't get in your body. So that's what binders do. They absorb the toxins so they don't get recirculated. So we have to poop and use binders, and that starts pulling toxins out. And then we go up methodically through the rest of the body. We work on the liver, we work. So, and we also work on the gut, of course, the chronic infections and parasites. Almost everyone has the parasites. So we get those out. We work on the liver, then we have to work on the lymphatic system, right? Our lymph follows our circulatory system and it drains toxins away from our cells. But if the lymph is clogged, like you can tell if you're, and maybe as a parent, if your ankles get swollen or your legs get swollen, or you have like edema in your limbs, like swelling, that's your lymph system that's not working well, right? I just had lunch with a practitioner the other day, and she had puffiness up here in her neck and in here, and that's a sign that her lymph isn't flowing, right? The things aren't draining. She had some mold toxicity. So
Wow.
we see that her lymph isn't flowing. It's not always that obvious, but I find that toxins are stuck in the connective tissues too, right? Our connective tissue we have organs in our body, and we have this fascia, this connective tissue that holds our organs in,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it holds our muscles together. It holds our bones in place. And that stuff has chemicals called, well, I won't go into it. It has biochemistry that is very sticky, and it'll hold the toxins.
Mm.
So we need to get draining this stuff out, and then the brain will drain last. So there's an order you do it in. And that's what my whole protocol is about. It's a drainage and detoxification protocol. So after you open up all these organs of elimination to drain the toxins out of the body, then you can start actively pulling toxins out. If you start actively pulling toxins out before that drainage is open, guess what? They're just going to move around the body
Oh,
and create
that
more
makes so
problems.
much sense. Yeah.
And we're not taught this, right? Doctors aren't taught this in medical school. We're not taught this where do we ever learn this in school or in our daily lives,
Well, and again, I've talked to lots of people for many, many years, and that was really I really understand that. Like I just had a few ahas. Like, oh,
Good.
oh, yeah, no. Thank you for making it in layman's terms where someone like, me can understand it, because I think it's so important to really understand how it works. Then it can make sense. Then we can then apply it, because as a parent, you and I were visiting earlier, it's overwhelming to know what, like, how do you navigate it? Like, what do you do first? You do what everybody else does, what is typical,
What does your pediatrician tell you to do first? What advice what do they tell you to do first?
read to my son. Although at that time I had been a first grade teacher. So, and by the way, Joseph was what we call back then hyperlexia. So he already knew how to read. So that's the advice I got. So, that was a long time ago. So what I did was I just got busy. And I, did what I did. But what I started out with, my philosophy was, if it does not hurt Joseph, I don't care how wacky it is, I'm going to do it. I don't really care. So we did lots of stuff. I did the brushing, the OT. I did like brain work with him, with blocks, pattern. I mean, we did all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff.
you're developing his brain. Yeah.
Yeah,
Making him
auditory
more-
integration training, which is still
Mhm.
not held conclusive. Lots of the things I did were, scientifically, there was evidence to base that, yeah, it could help. And I
Mhm.
thought, well, if something works, then yay. So I'm
Yeah.
like, this is cool. I wish I would have known what you're
Well, it's
sharing
never
with
too
us.
late. That's the
That's
thing. It's
right.
never
That's
too
why I was
late.
asking.
Well, also, what I hear these days from parents is that the pediatricians say, go do ABA, OT, and
Yeah,
speech.
yeah,
And so that's a little bit like putting a roof on a house
right.
that you might have the wood, skeleton of the house, but you don't have the walls, you don't have the electric, you don't have the plumbing.
Right.
So is that roof going to keep out rain? Well, maybe a little bit, but
Yeah,
it's not really doing the job it's supposed to do it because the rest of the house isn't built. So where I work on is like basically getting the junk out of the way so the rest of the house can be built. I'm working at a foundational level. The foundation
right.
is getting the body to function. And to do that, you pull the gunk out basically.
Yeah. So this question just came up, so I'm just going to ask it. But I'm curious, because I think about young moms and they appear to be healthy and pregnancy went well, right? Everything was great. So how do you know, like how, and then your child is on the spectrum? And I'm thinking about one client in particular where it's, nonverbal diagnosis. And so how do you know, like, are all autistic kids worthy of, like, should we all be doing, should it be on the list with ABA, OT, and speech therapy? Because I'm thinking so, but
That's what I think is missing. So first of all, I just want to say that many parents I talked to, they didn't have that healthy pregnancy. They had trauma. They had a potential genetic disease and they worried about it, but then it was okay in the end, right? Like, I think these interventions with the ultrasounds and amnios might be more invasive and harmful than helpful. Yeah, sure. We want to know the sex, but I think blasting people with all the ultrasound isn't good for the baby. I also hear a lot of parents who have done IVF. When I have a parent who has twins, I'm always curious if they did IVF. I talked to a mom one time with triplets who did IVF, and that's how the triplets came. So when a parent has to do in vitro fertilization, IVF, or when they have PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome, I think, when they have terrible periods, when they have hormonal issues, way even before they're pregnant, that's a sign they're toxic. And they're going to send those toxins right into the baby. So we think we have an easy pregnancy, but is it really? Especially like if people have a cesarean and not a vaginal birth, that disrupts the flora the baby gets. So there's lots of things. There's also parents who live near freeways, who live near fields that are sprayed with pesticides. There's research showing that there's a higher rate of autism in those kids. So my one other point I want to say about that is I feel like generationally, we are getting more and more toxic and kind of having a greater load. So I think since probably the Industrial Revolution in the 1800s, but I think my mom had a level of toxicity. She smoked while she was pregnant with me and my sisters, all of us. And then I had a load of toxicity. I had mercury fillings and I ate junk food. And then I got pregnant with my son. And, then he's, it's building generationally. Those are my thoughts based on research and my experience and talking to environmental specialists, really.
it's just the direction our society has gone over the years. I understand that because, we're all talking about it. I don't think this is a secret or that it's a crazy notion any longer that our environment is extremely toxic,
Yeah.
even where I
It's
live.
not a secret, but people don't want to lose the convenient lifestyle they have. Like with 5G and all the wireless, I'll tell you, my wireless wasn't around when our kids grew up. My son's 25.
Right.
wireless wasn't around till he was probably 10 or 12 or something, you know, so they didn't get that hit, but the kids these days are getting that. And there's so much research showing how damaging it is to ourselves. And then pregnant moms sleeping with Wi-Fi or having the phones on their bellies, or, you know, it's not, it's not harmless. You
Yeah.
know, we have to consider the whole, everything. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox on that now.
No, this is why you're here. It's to really share all your knowledge and the hope and inspiration that your success stories are very they're motivating, because I mean, again, if it's making a healthy lifestyle change, I don't think that that's a bad thing. I think
Right.
for
It might be
anybody,
difficult. It might be difficult and
it
challenging
is
for
challenging.
people to
Yeah.
not have the conveniences. But so you asked the question, I didn't want to skirt it, but you know, what do you do when you first get the diagnosis?
Mhm.
And you know, obviously there's a lot of emotional stuff that happens, which you know, you help parents with. But I think the first thing to do is, you know, look at what you're feeding your child,
Yeah.
right? What is going in their body? If it's got, I'll tell you, well, we go back to the environment.
Mhm.
Roundup is sprayed on so many crops before harvest because it makes it dried out and not get moldy. But then you have glyphosate, which does like 358 different bad things in the body. So
Mhm.
if you're giving your child non-organic food, you're giving them loads of pesticide every day. Sugar is poison, you know, you just can't give too much sugar. It's going to wreck the microbial flora. And, you know, that's another thing. The gut microbiome is another thing. So we have to really feed nutritious food and have the right microbiome in there. And that, you know, it's easy to say, but there's a lot of steps in getting that done. And I know parents, you're probably out there going, but my kid only eats 5 things.
Yes. Uh, you were just in my mind, because
It's in your head.
I know
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
because that can change. That can
Yeah.
change. And one of the things I'll just say, one thing parents can do right now to change that, there's a product called Juice Plus. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
I have not.
So
Mm-mm.
Juice Plus is like a powder, and what it is it's basically powdered fruits and vegetables.
Oh, okay.
And so what you can do is start giving your child that powder, and it gets their palate used to what fruits and vegetables taste like, and it's getting nutrients in. So it's like the slow road to getting them to try more foods. But they're, you know, the palate can be off, it can be a sensory thing. There can be lots of reasons why they're a picky eater. And I think, you know, Juice Plus is one way to start shifting that, but maybe they're deficient in zinc. I mean, this is where you work with a practitioner to do some testing and figure out what's going on.
Mhm.
I think a lot of kids, this is just my own personal opinion. I hear a lot of parents, the kids like really crunchy, right? The crunchy stuff, potato chips and stuff. So first of all, that's all junk food. That's not nutritious. So that shouldn't even be in their diet, right? I had a mom tell me recently, like, he won't eat Cheetos and whatever else she was trying to feed him. And I was like, good, don't give it to him. That's not food. So, you know, anyway, my point was, I think that crunchy, I have a feeling it has something to do with their sensory, with their sound, with the crunch, the sound of the crunch, and it makes them feel alive or good or something.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, you're nodding like, you know.
well, right. Oh, I'm thinking Joseph, his sensory was auditory, and then also, um, with certain foods. And I've talked about it before, but any type of potato literally made him ill. And my husband and I didn't know. So we just, well, Thanksgiving, of course we're
Oh,
going to have mashed potatoes. Who doesn't like mashed potatoes? And anyway, so yeah, there are sensory issues, but then beyond that, there are such a wide variety of foods. And I was one of those moms. I've been in health and fitness my whole adult life. And so Joseph, was introduced to many things, and we had episodes, but as a result, this guy now, he'll eat anything. He loves exotic cuisines, if you will.
Mm,
He'll eat things I won't eat. So
mhm.
I think that's an important point, that just to little teeny steps at a time, like with this Juice Plus, start
Mhm.
introducing it, because, at the end of the day, it may not be great. It may add stress to your day, but in the long run, because this is a journey, I think it's well worth the effort. And,
You said
yeah,
something too,
yeah.
that you said when you fed Joseph mashed potatoes, excuse me, he had a reaction. So that's just one of the key things, is like, watch what your child eats.
Yes.
What happens 2 hours later? What happens 2 days later? Are they
Mhm.
sensitive to it? So they might have food sensitivities, or their gut might hurt, which is why
Mm.
they don't want to eat too many foods. It hurts,
Yeah.
right? That's why you want to work with someone who knows about this stuff, who can at least guide you and say, let's do these tests or let's do those tests, and figure out what's going on, right? And at least at the minimum, be a detective, be a behavior detective, and watch food, behavior.
Exactly. My friend Patricia Lemmer, who wrote Outsmarting Autism, she has a show, The Autism Detective. And that's what she talks about, is like, you as a parent are a detective, because autism is so complex,
Yeah.
and what works for one doesn't work for the other.
And also, I read a book when my son was really young. It's called "You Are Your Parents' First, You Are Your Child's First Teacher" by Rahima Baldwin. She's a Waldorf teacher.
Mm,
So you, as the parent, are the teacher for the first couple years for your child. They are going to watch you and learn everything. What are you eating? What snacks are you sneaking? What have you got in your pantry? They are going to follow what you do. So
yeah,
this is the time to clean up the act for the parent, right?
yeah,
Clean up what you eat.
yeah, and we'll all feel better.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the first step I would take. Figure out your diet and get help if you need to, but shift your diet to what's really food, not, shop on the edges of the grocery store or
Mm.
the farmer's market, not in the middle. Don't get the processed junk. And then maybe you need to work with a practitioner to figure out, your child's reactions to food. So food is the first step. Probably probiotics, would be helpful. And really, like, I would think, and maybe after you see this podcast, right, I would go, oh, what toxins might my child have in his or her body, right? What did I have mercury fillings in my mouth when I was pregnant, or anytime in my life? Might I have mercury in my body? Did I have physical issues? What
Right.
might have caused those? What do I have in my body? So we really have to live a detox lifestyle now with everything out there. So maybe you add chlorella or spirulina every
Mm,
day into your drink. It's a green powder. It comes from an algae, and it tastes green, right? Because it's got a lot of chlorophyll in it, but it helps clean the body out. So you just take little baby steps one at a time.
mhm. Out of all, like the Juice Plus and all those wonderful suggestions, I think that's why we're so grateful for someone like you, right? Because I have been in health and fitness my whole life. So when you talk about certain things, I'm like, oh yeah. But if this is all new to you, and you're like, oh my gosh, here's another thing that I'm going to add to my overwhelming list of what I don't know. This is why you reach out if you can at all. And you've mentioned some great books. We share resources. Reach out to either one of us, and we will help you take that first step. So don't get overwhelmed if you're listening.
Yeah, I also want to say that there's an organization called TACA, and their website is TACA Now, TACANOW.org. And it used to, like, I think the acronym stands for the Autism Community in Action. And what they do is they have all these little satellite groups in probably major metropolitan areas, maybe not if you're out in Arkansas where you are, but they have parent groups and parent mentors. So a mentor for a new parent who just got the diagnosis, and you can see what they did, and how, it doesn't have to be overwhelming, and you can get support. That's the other thing I would say, is get support, build your team, right? You're going to need a team. I see autism, you're saying it's very complex indeed.
Yeah.
It's complex for the body internally. And so you really need a support team to, maybe you need your occupational therapist and your speech therapist, and then your nutritionist or your functional medicine doctor, right? You're going to need a team of people, because it's too much for you to do yourself as a mom. Like, you would just burn out, right? Right.
That's why I do what I do, because I want moms to also, yeah, you're the captain, you're the leader of this team as your child's advocate, right? For your family. And I'm just thinking, well, don't forget about you. Moms, don't forget about yourself, because I did, and it doesn't generally end very well when you can't go years and years and years of overwhelming stress, and it take care of you to put yourself on the team as a team leader, and the team leaders got to take care of themselves first.
Yes. And I want to say something else too. If you're listening and you're feeling overwhelmed and going, oh my God, my life is over as I know it, or whatever you're thinking, this is your path, right? And I always feel like the exact right thing is happening in the exact right moment. Otherwise it would be different, right? This is a Byron Katie thing. Like, this is exactly what's supposed to happen, because you know what, Mom, you probably have lessons to learn from this journey. It's part of your growth experience of being a human on Earth. And you can make it a drag and hard, or you can shift your mindset and make it okay, what are we going to learn today? How are we going to learn this? And I'll tell you, my son, I would call him on the edge of autism. My son was my greatest teacher. And you know what my greatest lessons was? Patience. I had to learn patience, because he was a tantrum kid, and he didn't have the good fine motor skills, and he had those edgy autism behaviors. He wasn't very social. He preferred adults versus kids to interact with. He was super brilliant, and kids just, I think he was impatient with other kids, right? They don't know the rules of engagement like adults do. So I think there are so many things I learned from going through his young life that I never would have gotten. And it's made me the human I am today, and hopefully a better person, I think. So it's not a ball and chain. This is your opportunity.
Yeah, I love that so much. That is great advice for anyone who's listening. And you mentioned Byron Katie, and yeah, that's someone you might want to check out too, because I think she just does it very simply, and how to alleviate, I call them crazy monkeys in your brain, when because as a parent of an autistic child, I mean, we all have fear of the future, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so that work just really helps with crushing the crazy monkeys, I say.
Yeah.
Crush those crazy thoughts, because we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
Yeah. Stay present. And I could honestly, I want you to come back. And we have so much more to talk about. So I do want you to come back. And before we go, though, I want to ask you, is there anything else that you would like to mention to our listeners?
Do you want something hopeful, inspiration, or what do you
I
want?
say, yeah, let's use our
Let's see what comes in.
body compass. Yeah. Whatever you want to say.
Yes, I'm going to tell a story.
Oh, yay.
This
I
is
love
what
stories.
came in. I talked to a parent once whose daughter was in her 30s, this maybe 5-10 years ago. And she was nonverbal, but she had a communication device. So I'm on the phone with the parent talking, about how to help her daughter. And her daughter is typing into the communication device, tell her this, tell her this. And here's what she said. She said, she is telepathic with other autistic kids, and she calls it WKOA, the radio station, W Kids of Autism. They're telepathic, and they want the parents to get together. And I think it's to change, to evoke change. But she's saying that our kids, especially nonverbal ones, are telepathic. And so I just want to put that out there. That didn't come from me. That came from someone with autism. That was her experience. Since then, I've talked to many other parents who say they're telepathic with their kids, and I can sometimes in a healing session, I get information about the child, not information I asked about, just something, comes in. So I really think that give that a chance with your child. If you're having a hard time understanding what they want or what they mean, or what, like, really want them to say the word, whatever this word, like, just use I think we all have this capability, just tap in at that level and just check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. I definitely think moms are superheroes, and we have superhero powers, and that's one of them. Whether you're aware of it or not, you have a deep intuition. Sometimes it gets blocked, and that's okay. But I think there's a knowingness inside all of us. And yeah, just give it a try. Go into what you know. You're the expert of your child, and
Yeah. And they're probably trying, like, yelling at you in their
Yeah,
telecommunication style, right?
right,
Like, don't you get it? Don't you get it?
right,
And I really feel like the kids coming in today, autism or not autism, they
right.
have these skills,
Yes.
that these extrasensory skills or whatever. I think it's planetary shift, right? It's for the betterment of humanity. I don't understand it, but that's kind of my bigger spiritual picture. And so let's work with our kids, like what are they here to do?
Yeah. Oh, definitely. They're leading us.
Yeah. How about
And
that?
oh, I know Joseph. And I talk about it in A Mother's Guide Through Autism, our book, that he has these profound one-liners. Like, you don't think he's paying attention at all.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden he'll give me a one-liner, and I literally am speechless because he is spot on. And so what you're saying, I have experienced with my son Joseph. I just didn't know that that's what it was, but I'm starting to go, oh yeah, no, that's right. He knows before I know.
Hmm.
Not always he doesn't always tell me, right? But if given the opportunity, if he has that moment where I directly ask him, I will directly get that answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
love that.
Tap into our kids' wisdom.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing that. I think that gives all of us so much to think about and to become more aware of what actually is going on, rather than, I know I was one of those moms just trying to find answers, resources. I just was dig, and missed out on the present moment. And it's taken me a long time to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Moms, we don't want you to lose yourself in the process, because, that old saying, put your oxygen mask on first before your child. Otherwise, you're dead and you're no good to them, right? You don't want to burn yourself out.
I love that. Yeah. Oh, I again, I could talk to you all day. Um, I'm sure our listeners are going to want to know how they can find you. So will you share your information with us?
Yeah, my website is autismtransformed.com. That's transform with an ED. And I do work one-on-one with clients, but I also have a program I put people in, which is what I spoke about earlier, the drainage and detox protocol. So it's just walking them through the steps. It's kind of a general protocol, and then I help you customize it. So that's another way that we could work together. And I'll be having a podcast soon, and yeah, that's mostly where people can find me.
Yes, and I'm excited about your podcast, and that's why you need to come back. because when you get that up and launched and some of the other work that you talked to me about, I'm pretty sure our listeners are going to want to know about it. So I will definitely have you back. All right. Well, it's been an honor. Thank you. And if you all enjoyed this episode of A Mother's Guide Through Autism, please subscribe so that Joseph and I can continue to share knowledge, hope, and inspiration. Have a great day, and I'll see you in the next episode.